This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I have Trevor Pryce. You may know him as a Super Bowl champion, All-Pro, Pro Bowler, Denver Bronco, but that's nothing. This guy is an ultra entrepreneur, and he has started his own, well, he started out just as an author, right, Trevor?
Yeah, at first, and it was a passion of writing, but how I got into it though was through music, because everybody knows I did music for a long time, and what happened was one of our songs was licensed for a Fox film, and they asked me to come to the studio, to come to the lot, to come sign my paperwork. Hey, you ever been to a movie lot? I was like, no, I've never been to one, right? So I went to Fox and I walked in the lot and I was like, I'm no longer doing music. I'm doing whatever this is.
And where does that imagination come from and confidence that, you know, you can walk onto a lot and determine your entire career?
Sheer willpower and ignorance, right?
And did you use that to be a professional football player too? Would that be the same?
Kind of. Well, I think in my case, it was kind of obvious. You know, you're just bigger and faster than everybody else. You know, like, okay, well, this works, right?
Yeah.
But the imaginary stuff, like everybody's a kid once, right? And I could draw when I was young. I love music. I love creative things. But now I look at the creative things as kind of both. I compete to create, which is very interesting because you know, at some point you got to say, hey, I'm as good as you are, if not better. And I think that's where the athletic stuff, that's where the football comes into play. It's a competition thing inside of me. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because I see a lot of athletes that are creative. You know, there's schools for creativity, but I believe that a lot of creativity comes through us as an inspiration. And even though there's directors, producers, actors, voiceover people, you and I both know a lot of athletes that weren't maybe even professional athletes, but somehow are just as competitive in the space, but have the confidence to say, you know what, I may not have gone to USC film school, but I can do this and learn how to do it, humbly learn how to do it.
Right.
What were those challenges like?
It was interesting because, you know, as a pro athlete, no matter what sports you play, you get that 6 months off a year, and that's when you have to kind of go at it, right? So I've always been. I learned a long time ago. My first day in NFL, Neil Smith told me, he said, "Don't burn the candle at both ends. When you're playing your sport, when you're professional, you're professional. When you're not, right?" And so those 6 months, I would spend saying yes to everything. And what happens is you wind up in all these rooms. Hey, you want to go meet this person? Sure. You want to go there? Sure. Yes.
You're Baron Davis. He's classic Baron Davis.
Yeah. So you wind up meeting a bunch of people, and then I think the advantage was when I first started doing this, I was still with Denver, so I wasn't in New York or LA all the time. So I would have to call people or email them. And the funny thing is, I was telling my kids yesterday, I was like, when you're a pro athlete, every president of every studio picks up the phone once. And like I called like Doug Belgrade, who's the president of Sony. I was like, they're like, Doug Belgrade, I said, this is Trevor Pryce. The secretary said, hold on.
Right.
And Doug was like, hello? You know what I mean? He doesn't pick up the phone for anybody at that time, but they will pick it up once. When they pick it up, you better have something intelligent to say. You better have something worth listening to, because you'll get an audience once. You won't get it twice.
Yeah.
So I made sure I had something decent to say. And the first project I ever sold, I sold to Doug Belgrade. I had never pitched a movie in my life. I went to his office. I pitched a movie. He said, "We're buying this." I was like, "Okay, so what happens now?" You know what I mean? So that sheer ignorance is how I hate saying ignorance, but I think it's kind of like kind of a so what attitude. Yeah. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I still have to go to football practice. So there's a safety net, and when you have that safety net, it's easy to go screw something up. You know what I mean? So that's where it came from.
In talking to that, you know, most people, and you invest your own money, mostly your own money, and there comes a point, whether you're Jerry Jones or Trevor Pryce, you know, Jerry will tell you 2 different times in his life, he had everything, but most people don't know he risked everything to build that stadium, right? Absolutely. He risked everything to buy the team. Everything. And you know, as we sit here, I can see as I watch the incredible things that you produce, you're risking everything, and you have kids and a wife, and coming from a guy who has risked everything, lost everything, and made it back, I know what that feels like. How do you balance that type of fear compared to on the field fear?
Oof, I have never been asked that. I think there's two things, right? So one, just my life, right? So I've kind of done everything, right? And you own the big home, and then you realize having a big home is pretty awful because a big home makes big mess. Big mess means big bills.
Lots of bills.
And it's just, you just feel, it's just, and then your kids start growing up, and like my oldest daughter's in college, my next one's about to go to college next year, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do with all this space? We don't, you know what I mean? And I've owned the exotic cars and all that kind of thing. So I think I'm at a point in my life now where it's about the work and not about the stuff. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the balance came in. Because when you're 23, 24 years old and you've never had that kind of thing, you do it. And I did it. I did it big, right? Then you just go, then you get to 30, 32, you're like, it's like, oh God, I mean, how many more sneakers do I need?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm at that point now, I've kind of done it correctly. Is that I've lived that life. I don't want or need to do that again. My kids, they've seen and done it all, and now I'm all about, so I read a quote. I don't know who said it, but I'd never forget it. A wise woman once said, "Family, friends, work, fitness, sleep. Pick 3. You can only have 3."
I love that.
So that's a quote. I didn't make that up, right? Yeah. And I was like, when I think about that every day, and the 3 that I've picked, none of them have to do with blowing money doing stupidness. I picked work, family, and fitness. I don't sleep much, right? That's what my
study sleep. Now, one of the things that I've seen about professional athletes converting over into the work world is that the greatest all pros and pro bowlers like yourself, if your body would have handled it, you would have worked out 8 hours a day. Right, it's in your nature, that consistent, persistent behavior. When people like you transfer over into the work world,
it's the same.
But the difference is you can actually work 16 hours a day.
That is
right. You couldn't do that with sports.
That is hilarious because I work 16 hours a day. I was here yesterday for 12 hours, and you blink, and it's like it's 6 p.m. and I got here at 8. You know what I mean? You just blink and you're like, oh, it's time to go home, and that same, you're built, I think, as an athlete, especially a football player, your body's built for trauma, right? It is traumatic.
Especially when you're 6'6".
Especially when you're 6'6", right? And you're 300 pounds. So your body's built for trauma. So that same traumatic mindset comes into when I open a studio. And I am here all day and all night. The difference being, when my kids go home, my kids get home from school, my 2 that are home now from school, when they have practices, I leave here and go to practice or I go watch things.
Family values.
And then I come back. You know what I mean? And after they go to bed, I come back, and I've been here till 1 a.m. And I'm not alone. There's a bunch of people here, you know what I mean? There's a kid, I think, that lives here. I'm not quite sure.
Not telling anyone.
I don't want to ask him because there's a liability.
He has his own Rudy. He has his own Rudy.
No, he does. The kid has a room in the back, and I was like, I caught him in there sleeping yesterday morning. I was like, Peter, get up. So anyway, but that is a thing. That is true.
And besides working twice as many hours, one of the things I find about athletes, college, pro, just competitive athletes, is that you learn to be efficient as well as statistically successful because they're used to practicing.
Yeah.
And so I call it the power of 64. Most athletes will work 16 hours, twice as efficiently, twice as statistically successful.
Absolutely.
So every day they're getting 64 hours, and then they love it so much they do it 7 days a week.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard anybody say it like that, but that's kind of where I am, right? And we have a bunch of sayings around here. One of them being, "It's not rocket science." But around here, it is rocket science. Like,
I've seen some of that stuff.
It is rocket science, right? And I kind of instill upon my 30 employees, like, okay, we have to be not just efficient, we have to be better than everybody else. So, you know, one other thing to say around here is, if we're supposed to do it, we're not doing it. So there's certain tropes in storytelling and making things and doing that kind of stuff where I go, yeah, your first instinct is probably wrong. Because if you thought of it that fast, it means you haven't thought about it. So that's why we have so many people, and they're spread out kind of, and they come in all kinds of times a day, and you just wind up saying, okay, like a head coach, right? I still follow football very much so. I even follow it more now than I did when I played.
I bet.
And I look at what John Harbaugh's done. I was there when he got hired. And Steve Bisciotti and Ozzie did the right thing of hiring not a offensive or defensive genius. I hired a special teams coach, right? A guy that he has to motivate the guys that don't want to do that job. Right. Flat out.
They want to do something else.
They want to go be the star tailback or be the star defensive. But I got to motivate 11 guys that want nothing to do with this. And if you do that well, you can motivate anybody. So.
Plus you have Ray Lewis.
Right. Well, that's another thing.
That's
right?
most inspirational person I've ever met.
Right. So the way I look at it is I have to be creative, ultra creative, but I have to lead. And I have to lead by example, and I have to kind of rally everybody every day around here. And I kind of, the other thing, I kind of let them be, you know what I mean? And like some of them kind of show up late and time, but they're artists. And I've come here plenty of Saturdays and seen people here. I told them to get here, but they're motivated. And there's one kid another guy, I'm like, nobody be like Tyreek. And I tell him all the time, if I didn't like you, I want to pick on you.
Oh my goodness!
That's why.
Say that one more time.
And I pick on him every day. I pick on him. I ride him like
my
a
young
mind
Michigan
mule.
guy's over there shaking his head. He goes, "Dave must love me."
Yeah, I ride him like a mind mule. And I've told him. I said, as long as this place exists, you will always work here. And you know.
What about raising your voice? We come from a football background. You know, we're about 7 years apart.
Yeah.
Do you ever do it?
Nope. I don't have to do it. If I say this is the way we're doing it, then if I say it like that, everybody kind of stops, because I give them enough freedom. You know, like I'm directing the movie, and the way the software works is, you kind of move the cameras and do cinematography after you shoot.
Right.
Like the way they made Alita Battle Angel. Robert Rodriguez was filming somebody, and they were like, where do you want the camera? He said, we don't need the camera right now. We move the camera after we've gotten the data. So there's a guy here who's always wanted to be a director, right? I'm directing the movie. I set the cameras after we're done. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. I go down there, look at it, and it's completely different. And I go, okay, who moved the cameras? And the guy, Patrick, is like, well, you know, I thought this and another. And the guy that runs 3D for me, I was like, well, you have to tell him to stop moving the cameras. And then one day they came to me, and the guy that runs 3D said, he was telling me that he's always wanted to do this. And without this place, he would have never gotten to do it. So I stepped way back and went, I gotta let him spread his wings a little bit. Because this opportunity only exists, again, for 500 miles in a circle, we are alone. You know what I mean? So that is why I kind of let a lot of them kind of just go about their thing, because they will eventually get to where I am, right? Because I'm pretty good at this stuff. But once they get there and I can trust them, I'm like, I gotta do something else. Y'all fix this.
You brought up a great point. Not only are you the only one within 500, miles, but in the country, the places where this stuff is normally done, you're probably the top production creative house like this in maybe even the world. Why Baltimore?
Two reasons. Number one, I say this all the time, and I say it like this: I ain't from here, right? I'm from Florida, right? Yeah. My kids are from here. My kids were all born in Denver, but
they grew up here.
They grew up here, right? So that's one. The second thing is my wife and I like it here. We like where it is. We're close to all our family, but we also like diversity of the place. We like that we're close to New York and all these type of things. So from a personal standpoint, that's one thing. From an artistic standpoint, there's two things here. The art school where our studio is here at MICA is a resource, right? the woman that runs Nickelodeon went to school here, right? So there is, if you're gonna start a studio, the hardest thing to do is find artists. We have a place where artists reside. Now, I will tell you this, all of them need to get better, right? As an artist, as kid, but it's not their fault because they've never had anything to compete for, or because there's no art jobs here, right? So you go to art school and then you go work at Grubhub. That's kind of the pattern on this part of the country, right? So that's number one. Number two, because we are doing VFX and rendering and performance capture and all this future tech, like ILM, like I'm in ILM's tailwind, Industrial Light and Magic, Lucasfilm, so like whatever they're doing, we do. Just on a much smaller scale, but it is the same, right? So we have to be able to say that we are competing with them. And to do that, you need computer scientists. And there's a computer language spoken in this part of the world that we can pull people from. We have a guy that's studying computer science at Johns Hopkins that knows how to draw.
Yeah.
And what I'm starting to realize now is, as a studio, you don't need great artists because the software, the engines in the software do mostly all the work for you. Like, at this point, right now, you can build a photorealistic environment on a cell phone in 15 minutes.
Crazy.
And I'm not that's not exaggeration. I've seen it done, right? But you need education and programming people to separate yourself.
In practice.
Which
is what
right?
this provides.
And fun enough, I talk to people about when we start to expand, where are we going to expand? Like, where are we going to get people from? And I am looking at the Czech Republic and like the Eastern Bloc, because the people that are over there doing this, they're doing the 3D stuff like that, they're the best in the world, simply because they have nothing else to do. Mm-hmm. So they spend all day practicing. And some of the stuff you see online, you're just like, what?
Yeah,
like
I just saw some of it.
Yeah, but even more so, like the guys in, like, not even Moldova, but like weird places around the world and they don't speak
connection, right?
And they don't. They speak bad English, but boy, they overdo everything, so everything looks real over there. You know what I mean? And they cannot get to this part of the world.
Yeah.
So I have to figure out how do I pull 6 of those people out of the basement they are in somewhere using a bad PC onto the futuristic crap we have here.
Right, amazing. Last question. What do you miss most about playing professional football, and what do you like the most about being an entrepreneur?
I think, you know what I miss most about playing I miss the preparation. I miss the off season. Because my thing became, what do you do when the season's over to prepare for next season? And that became like a rallying point for me. Like, okay, I need to get stronger. I need to get faster. I need to do something different. And it's because right now when you don't play, you work out just to be working out, because you don't want to get fat. And I'm like, I miss that. I miss working towards that goal. To be honest, I miss that more than the crowds. I miss that more than the games. I miss that thing that by myself, kind of like just me and a bunch of sand and some kettlebells and just like trying to be like, again, competing, right? Mm-hmm. The football part is easy because you're just big and strong, whatever, but the competing with, what'd you do this off season? Yeah. You didn't do what I did. You know what I mean?
And that leads to, what do you like most about being an entrepreneur?
The same thing. Yeah. It's me telling people that are supposed to be good at this that they're not. I spent a lot of time doing that. Like, who told you were good at this? Yeah. I spent a lot of time doing that.
Which is fun for me because, when I stepped on the college football field, they looked at me like people in the business world probably look like you.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
What's this football player think he can do? He's making movies.
And here's the thing. I have become the guy that says, no, you should have played football and I should be doing your job.
Right on.
Because you're not good at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you are good at this.
Yeah, at this point, because I worked hard at it. Yeah. And again, the thing I will say is when y'all were walking around and shaking hands and kissing babies, I was working at this. I was writing and creating and thinking about story. Not because I thought it made me rich or none like that, because I love doing it and I want to be better than you are. The people that I want to be compared to are not you, and we know who those people are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm working towards that.
Well, you encompass one of my favorite sayings with his Trevor Pryce. He enjoys the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of his own potential, whether it's on or off the field, his favorite things. This is Dave Meltzer, always learning the playbooks of the most successful people here on the Playbook.